Alright fellas, here we're back on our Pokemon Masters video. It's time for us to take a look here at the boy, the king, the goat, Volo and Giratina. Alright, yeah, he's coming. And this is a great trailer, by the way. I watched this yesterday.
Behold!
Yeah, so cool. So damn cool.
Story is not over.
Oh, I love this. He's going nuts, bro. Okay. Anyway, just a little bit of fanboying. All right, gotta get that out of the way. Okay. Let's actually take a look at Volo here as a kit. So, is Volo worth going for? Yes. Okay. Just the truth. Volo is worth going for. He is not, in my opinion. Let's just reset the parameters there. He is not, in my opinion, on the level of these guys. Okay. He's definitely not on the level of Glory and Red. I think people are trying to argue between Eriott and Volo. I think Eriott is a little bit more comfortably above Volo, but not to the point where, you know, it's a tough decision, or sorry, where it's an easy decision to go for whichever one of them. Like, if you've got extremely good poison, you would probably want to go for Volo more than Eriott. But if the inverse is true, then, you know, well, inverse, right? But for the most part, Volo is still an extremely strong character, a definitely worthwhile character to summon for, which is kind of what he should be, given, you know, being basically part 2 to the anniversary. That's kind of how these characters work. We go back 2 years, it doesn't really make too much sense because it was Palmer and Argenta basically was the part 2 of the anniversary, which was fucking. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but they were in that time slot. But we go back last year, it was Signasuit Lear. Signasuit Lear made a ton of sense to be an anniversary character. He wasn't a headliner, but he was in the middle of the month, and that basically treated him as a part 2. They're doing the same thing this year with Volo. Volo was acting as a, quote, part 2 to the anniversary, and his kit definitely tells the tale, pretty much. I mean, he is extremely strong. We take a look here at Volo with his kit, level 150, 6-star EX with the EX roll invested. He has nearly 500 in offenses, which is really good, given that he is not even level 180 yet. 900 HP, 237 defenses is not crazy, but it's obviously not terrible either. 389 speed, pretty good gauge managing. Then we have him over here to level 180. He's got almost 1,000 HP, 550 in both offenses. Again, quite good. 267 defenses and 443 speed. Very solid stats overall. And level 200, over 1,000 HP, almost 600 offenses, 479 speed, 287 in the defenses, almost 300. Not bad at all. Yeah, he's definitely got some good stats. He is a field strike character. Of course, the biggest thing with him is that he sets EX Ghost Zone, which is extremely strong. One of the coolest things about Volo is, there's a few things. Obviously, he's awesome, but skipping ahead a little bit in his abilities, he has another one of those EX Master Fair passives, which gives the sync buff, or the sync damage support, the sync damage reduction, and all that. And the big thing is that this does it the more Sinnoh characters you have on the team. Also consider how these are named differently compared to other regular Master passives. Him and Eriott can stack up their passives. At least they should be able to. So if you do run them together, you're getting basically double benefits with them both being Sinnoh characters. They're stacking onto each other's, and, you know, that's obviously going to be really strong. Thing is, they don't really synergize, though. Like, not really at all, other than Eriott having one ghost move, right? But that's not the point. Point is that with this support, you're getting at minimum 20% power-ups and 25% damage reduction with a max of 50% and 31%. Now, thing is, with characters like Eriott, you're not likely to get this, because Eriott's best partners are not Sinnoh. Red, it's not as hard. His best partner is Arc Lance, and so you're going to be able to easily get, you know, at least 2/3 of that passive, and then you can run whoever for support, whatever. If it's a Dragon Tower, it's going to be like, if it's a Dragon Tower, you can run Lodge Lance, so yeah, he does get his master passive. Well, anyway, Volo has a similar not ability, because it's just luck, it just happened to work that way, but his best partners are also all Sinnoh, other than this one, which is also another Master Fair, which gives more support, so good to consider. But anyway, his best partners for the most part are Sinnoh. We've got Fantina. Fantina is extremely solid as a free-to-play ghost support, and she's Sinnoh, and she also sets the Sinnoh Circle. Again, great buffing ability right there. Variety Cynthia, a very solid partner as well. Doesn't set Ghost Zone, sadly, which is what he wants, but you know, she is a Sinnoh character that does a lot of good ghost damage. Summer Gardenia. We've started getting into actually really strong options for Volo. She sets Ghost Zone up to 3 times, and if you get MP on the trainer move, you know, even more times, right? So if she's going to be an extremely good partner to have for Volo, she does a lot of good supportive stuff. She does some okay damage, you know, nothing crazy, but she can do it. And well, again, she's going to be a very good partner for Volo because of all the Ghost Zone settings she can do to help out with this EX Ghost Zone and how they design those units. And again, she is Sinnoh, so that's a buff for his passive. Costume Eriott. Same thing. She's not going to set Ghost Zone, but she's a great damage dealer. She's going to shred extremely well in terms of damage, and she's also Sinnoh. And then the biggest option people are probably going to compare them to is, we'll compare Volo with who I guess is Renegade Cynthia, who has her own master passive as well. And again, Sinnoh sets Ghost Zone. Great option. I don't think I might be wrong. I definitely could be, but I honestly think that people are maybe overestimating Renegade Cynthia's ability to be a good partner for Volo. I think she is good, but I don't think she's better than Summer Gardenia, at least not in my opinion, given Gardenia's amazing utility. Like, yeah, you're missing out a little bit of damage not running Renegade Cynthia, I guess, but I think Volo's going to be carrying a little bit more on that front anyway, and Gardenia is definitely good enough with her utility to kind of make up for that fact. And of course, if we're going to look for damage, this is the character you're going to kind of run anyway. But anyway, that's kind of besides the point. Point is, almost all of the top tier ghost options are Sinnoh characters. The only exception for the most part is going to be this Celine, right? Who has her own master passive to kind of help with the damage, right? So Volo's master passive, at least 2/3 is going to be pretty much, well, not maxed out, but 2/3 of it's going to be made use of because that is just the best ghost partners, you know, or best ghost units in the game are pretty much all Sinnoh, which is funny. So that's just something I kind of wanted to mention there. We'll go into the other stuff as well in a little bit. What is this lucky skill? We'll just pick it up and show it. Yeah. All right, whatever. Anyway, moving on to the moves, he's got Shadow Force and Shadow Ball. This is the Renegade Cynthia special. Well, I guess Morty special. Morty, Renegade Cynthia, this Volo will share it. Shadow Ball and Shadow Force, we know how the perks work with Shadow Force. I really expected Volo, if he had Shadow Force, to have the thing where he could skip the preparation period, and well, he does. Yeah, only on this, but whatever, sure. Man, whatever. Yeah, but anyway, Shadow Force, it takes 2 turns to charge up and do 240 power. Sadly, he sync countdown stuff. I don't think he does sync countdown management to help out with it other than the burst ones he can do. Yeah, nothing. So this does mess up with your sync countdown a little bit unless you can actually bring something to kind of counter it, or you just make use of Volo's abilities like Head Start 3 and Adrenaline 3 in the grid. But again, we'll go over those later. Shadow Ball here for a little bit of damage. This is mostly to debuff, if anything, though I don't really think he's got any guaranteed debuffing in him. So this is mostly just used for, I guess, utility, mostly, if anything. It can do damage, but it's not going to do crazy damage, even given Volo's solid offenses. It's going to be fine for damage, but nothing crazy. And then Distortion World Shadow Force. This is a good move here. It hits all enemies. It's 3 limited uses, no gauge, 240 power, like regular Shadow Force. It does the same thing as Shadow Force right here. Okay. But this is different. The user attacks without taking out a shadow presence when the zone is Ghost Zone. So anytime he is in Ghost Zone or EX Ghost Zone, you will actually skip the preparation period and attack instantly, which again is what I thought they would have done for this, but I digress. They did do it for this, which is good. The power of the move is not lowered if there are multiple targets and raises the evasion of all allies by 2. So it's a good AoE damaging move. It can hit all enemies. It does great power. It's got great power backed up by EX Ghost Zone, good offenses. You know, this is going to hit actually quite hard. Definitely do not underestimate it for sure. And buffing the evasion of all allies. This is not a crazy ability, especially given like the content most people are going to be looking to use them in. The tower. It has Piercing Gaze at the last stage, but for the few stages that don't have it, this could be decent, I guess. But also consider with Shadow Force, you know, he can just evade enemy attacks guaranteed because of it, right? So this is a solid power, solid power and move in. It's got a pretty easy condition to keep up with it just being maintained Ghost Zone. So yeah, and then the trainer move, Strike Them Down. You think they say that enough, huh? Yeah, you think that? Yeah, okay. Reduces sync countdown by 1. This can help with the Shadow Force, by the way, but I don't know if you really want to. I think you'd have to use this later for this to be of great effect. But anyway, raises attack and special attack by 6 and crit by 3. Amazing self-sufficiency. Increases his moves up next by 3. Applies physical move and special move break to the user. Okay. Also, I want to add this in, just a little bit of something to add in there. He's also got this. this passive here, he gets EX Ghost Zone on his trainer move the first time he uses it, and he also gets a one round of +10 sync move up next, okay? So that's actually, we'll just append that to the effects here. I'm really not sure why they do stuff like this in character kits at this, I haven't really thought about it too much, but this stuff makes no sense to me. I guess because they want to give him NPR? I guess, sure, never mind. I guess it makes enough sense. Whatever, no big deal. Okay, but the thing with this and having the ability to set EX Ghost onto this trainer move means that you want to use it later in the fight. So this means Volo's not going to be doing a lot of damage earlier in the fight, but that's fine because you're not doing much damage without a lot of sync buffs anyway. So, in my opinion, the optimal way to utilize this is to stall with Volo by using, you know, Shadow Ball, or I guess Shadow Force, but probably just Shadow Ball, right? Just use your Shadow Balls, use all those up, and then with Gardenia, stick with her. Again, this is kind of an assumption you're running him with Gardenia. You could also do this under Fantina as well. This is why I think Fantina is a really good supportive option, because she's a field EX sync. But anyway, you sync with one of those characters, you get the support EX up, you get the field EX, then you should instantly use Shadow Ball right after that to set the EX, or not, sorry, not Shadow Ball, the trainer move, to set the EX Ghost Zone, you know, right here. And get all these effects in, because this will preserve the amount of how long EX Ghost Zone lasts, because I didn't know this, so I'm explaining it to people. But if you use a field sync, whenever you use a field sync move and you set an EX zone on top of that field sync, or I guess right after, whenever you use it, doesn't really matter, that EX zone will last as long as what that field sync was going to last. So if you use an EX Weather Terrain zone, you know, again, we sync with Fantina, and say the next move queued up is Volo's trainer move. EX Ghost Zone will be set because of Volo's trainer move, and instead of lasting the typical 30 seconds, you know, plus whatever extension amounts you may have, it will last whatever the duration of that field sync would last, plus the extensions that may apply to it, right? So if you think about how long a field sync normally lasts, that is how you get a lot of extra, you know, EX Weather Terrain Zone, because that's how that works. So that is why it is probably going to be better to save Volo's trainer move for after your character syncs, because, you know, first 3 turns, technically it's 2 turns because he's got head start 3, so you already don't have to worry about 2 turns of sync acceleration, right? You just have to attack twice, and then you're at your support sync, which is obviously really good. You just attack with Volo twice, then you can get -1 sync countdown after, you know, your ally uses their sync move. Obviously extremely good. By the way, hold on, I'm just now noticing this. Is he the first field sync? Is he the first field character to have a trainer move that only targets himself and not an ally? Because, like, look at this. Targets an ally. I'm only just now noticing that. I'm sorry, I'm whatever. You use, you know, your Fantina or your Summer Gardenia sync, whichever, to get that zone up and that support EX, and then you get the extra sync countdown on top of that, basically acting like Adrenaline 1. You get Volo's buffs, you get the moves up next, which now that you've got EX Ghost Zone up and you've got yourself support EX, right? You've got yourself a lot of damage you can do with these next few attacks. And then you're applying this. Obviously, this is a debuff. The thing is with this is that you can definitely time this around when enemies are going to attack. And the fact is that Volo is meant to kind of get these abilities and then evade attacks using Shadow Force or buffing his evasion. Whether that works is a different question entirely, but also consider he does have good damage reduction ability because of this here. And of course, you can always bring a decent supportive character. Like Fantina can provide some defense reduction or some damage reduction with Sin of Solidarity. She can apply mini potion support, you know, all of that stuff. You know, you can kind of help out with this. She can also do flinching, so enemies don't actually end up attacking Volo. Again, this is why I'm really repping Fantina as an extremely good support, despite being a gym unit. Like, this is actually a really good character, in my opinion. But regardless, despite this being a debuff to Volo, pretty much acting like it, because he only sets it to himself. This is not on the enemy. Let's clarify. This is to Volo himself. You will actually be able to kind of manage with this pretty well, just as long as you don't use it like right before the enemy sinks, right? Because it will take 2 actions of using moves in order to actually get it back, or like get rid of this. So, you know, you don't want Volo to take a sync move. He could probably live a first one or something like that, but you really don't want to try it. You really don't want to. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And that I think is like the best way to kind of like use Volo, or like figure out the best way to like on how he works. Going to his passive skills, he's got Strong Start here. I'm just going to expand all these again. This is useless. Just run Crit Strike if you're going to run something like that, or Vigilance, or, you know, those type of abilities don't really run Strong Start. This sucks. Okay, he's also got this. He basically acts as an arc suit. Obviously, I said he's got this. I don't really have to go into explanation. I've wanked this ability, you know, for Red, for Gloria, for Eriott. Like, the support is amazing. It's great, right? And the damage reduction, all that. But it's the same for Volo, if not more so, because you're extremely likely to have a full Sinnoh team. So you're gonna have this basically maxed of 50% power-ups and 31% damage reduction. But anyway, he's also got this. Lowers enemy ghost rebuff by 1 the first time a sync move is used each battle. He acts as an arc suit. And on top of that, he has this ability, Devotion to the Creator, Head Start 3, and Debut Team Ghost Rebuff. Going into this for just a second, he does -1 Ghost Rebuff on entry, like an arc suit, and -1 on sync move, like an arc suit. He is an arc suit. Okay, he is basically, he is a false arc suit, which is kind of I mean, that makes the most sense to me. I always expected Volo to kind of be like the ghost arc suit, or quote unquote ghost arc suit, and it looks like they did actually go that route. So very expected of me, and yeah, I'm very happy with that. Obviously, this is an extremely strong buff for Ghost. So not only is he setting the EX Ghost Zone, doing all that strong stuff, he's also doing -2 Ghost rebuff. He's like Arc Suit Ethan, right? Doing both the rebuff and the EX Weather Train Zone setting. Same with like Arc Silver, right? Extremely strong. Extremely strong. Head Start 3 here. Again, this is something I was mentioning earlier. This makes it so you can use those Shadow Balls. I guess, I really don't think it's good to waste your Shadow Forces, because I don't does he have any NPR for it? It doesn't look like it. So he's actually going to be very limited on the amount of usages of this that he actually has. So really keep that in mind. For your Shadow Ball, you only have to use a few of those before you actually get to your first sync move because of the Head Start 3 here. So Volo's ability to do some immediate sync acceleration is extremely strong too. Give him the Sprint DX roll. He basically has it. He basically has it right here. Anyway, we already went over this. I didn't go over this too much. The +10 sync move up boost is not that crazy for him. At 1 out of 5. At 1 out of 5. At 1 out of 5 is not that crazy. It gives him a decent multiplier, and of course with the ghost rebuff, which will not apply to that first sync right here, but this one will. So 30% basically. Plus the X Ghost Zone. He'll be doing some pretty decent sync damage, I guess, for that first sync, but he's not going to be like your main sync nuker. At least not until he gets some extra dupes in him. But this is good to have for sure. Some extra damage. It does help. And then the Heavens and Earth is 1. This is a little nutty. He's got Ghost Zone, Hit, and Interference, giving guaranteed flinch, confusion, and trap. Amazing. This is an amazing ability for the tower. This is going to be very helpful for those stages that need you to actually have like a status condition up, which, again, I was saying this before, this is helpful for this. You don't have to worry about this being a massive drain on Volo, because his DPS is not that crazy, so you're going to be able to hit whatever enemy you want with Shadow Ball, and then you can flinch them, and then confuse and trap them, so you'll be getting rid of those, annoying gimmicks where the enemy may have those stages that require a status condition or a status change, and you're also going to be able to flinch the enemies so that they're not doing a lot of damage to Volo, despite him having that physical move and special move break, right? And of course, that's extremely strong in the legendary arenas, if that's, your type of thing. That's extremely good for some stages like Thornton's Ultimate Battle, where you need a gimmick check by doing this. Granted, he already does that because he does rebuff. Similar case to Yuxi, but this just makes him like completely clean sweep fucking Yuxi. Dude, Yuxi is cooked. Holy shit, Yuxi's cooked. Anyway, he's also got guaranteed free moves next. This just kind of seals the fate of some of those characters even more, or enemies, whatever. Yeah, that gives him some guaranteed free moves next. That makes his gauge good. Again, that is why you should not really probably focus. You should not use Shadow Force in those first few turns. You should just be spamming Shadow Ball, because you got gauge from it. You're going to be getting that selected flinching, confusion, and trap. Very, very helpful stuff. Very, very helpful stuff. Which, by the way, let's consider this interference is going to be AoE whenever you use this. So if you need to quickly set some interference on all enemies, this can be helpful for that. If you need to flinch all enemies, which is a lot less helpful typically and a lot less desired, frankly. But, if that is something that appeals to you, the AoE effect of this move is going to be making this happen for all enemies. And then he's got hit interference opponents, physical and special boost. Increases his moves on next by 1 when his attack move is successful against a flinching, confusion, or trapped opponent. Does that count for multiple enemies? I gotta just, I hate the wording of this game so much, dude. Like, it's so minor. When attack was successful against an opponent that is affected by a status condition. Okay. I believe this means that this will only proc once. So even if you use the Buddy Shadow Force and it hits all enemies, I believe this will only proc once, so he only gets 1 round of physical and special moves up next. I could be wrong. I could be. Please correct me if I am wrong, but that is how Eriott works whenever an ally hits, so I believe that this will only work. I believe this is only plus 1, but still, that +1 is nice. You're hitting an interference affected opponent, and that means your Shadow Balls are going to be guaranteed to have +1 special moves up next. Your Shadow Force is going to have +1 physical move up next. Buddy Shadow Force is the same case. And this does mean you can kind of stack up physical moves on next stacks by spamming Shadow Ball. You know, you're not using those physical moves on next stacks. You can stack those up and then go for like a +4, +5, plus however many boosted physical move up next Shadow Force here. That could be extremely strong for some quick burst damage. So Volo's damage and his utility is looking really good. The EX Ghost Unsetting, the rebuff here, the supportive Master passive, the Head Start 3, you know, that's all amazing utility and like support for the team. Also, the interferences, of course, is really good. His damage is going to be looking pretty decent. He's got that sync move boost for that, the sync move, the guaranteed physical moves and special moves on next one hitting interference opponents, which of course trap lasts for like 100 years, so it's really not that bad there. And some, again, decent damage because these are already hard hitting moves. Sadly, this is 2-turn, but it still can hit quite strong, especially in burst. And again, that EX Ghost Unsetting and the 3 rounds, or not 3 rounds, but the 3 +3 buffs of the physical and special moves on next here is going to be looking extremely impressive for his damage. Maybe not at 1 out of 5, but at least with dupes it will be, and we're going to go into those. 1 out of 5, he doesn't really have anything, just damage tiles. It's, or well, stat tiles. That's literally it. 2 out of 5, he gets Ground Guard, Natural Remedy, Quick Cure, Haunted Healing, Train of NPR, Haunted Acceleration, and Shadow Ball Super Duper Effective 3. This is useless. Plain and simple. Maybe if he's only 2 out of 5 and you're not investing him anymore and you want to fight Wally's Ultimate Battle, maybe, but for the most part, I think this is useless. I don't think his damage is going to struggle in any real regard in any against any Ghost Weak opponent. Haunted Healing 1 and Acceleration 2. If your team needs Gauge and is really struggling, maybe I can see Gauge being an issue literally turn 1 when Volo does not have his free moves next, because you know after he attacks he'll immediately have it. Because of course, like partners like Summer Gardenia, I've mixed these up so bad. Like Summer Gardenia, she's going to want to use Metal Sound, so she's probably, if you're like timing the moves right or using them right or whatever, she's gonna probably want to use Metal Sound, which is going to cost some Gauge as well. And then whoever your support is, if they're not using a trainer move, you know, if they're using an attack move, you're going to want Gauge. So but even in that case, actually, I don't know why I mentioned all that. Haunted Acceleration wouldn't help you because your EX Ghost Zone is not going to be up at that point. So yeah, no, I don't really find much use in this. Again, maybe if your team's Gauge is bad, but I don't really see that happening unless your speed gets debuffed to all hell. That's like it. Haunted Healing, this is a solid arena tile, and this can be a decent tile as well, just kind of in general, if you have the ability to like afford picking it up, which is usually the problem with abilities like this. Tick Healing is really good on basically every single character in the game, but there's just so many good tiles on a character's grid nowadays that it's almost impossible to pick it up unless you are literally going for like a legendary arena solo. And then Trainer Move NPR 2 there. This, I honestly think, could be helpful if you can time it appropriately, because you can still get another round of sync countdown here and another round of moves up next. But, of course, you've got to also time it around this, so don't use it when the enemy has a sync move, right? But also keep in mind that will not proc this, because these are all for the first trainer move, not for all trainer moves. Distorted Eldritch Presence. The heavens and the earth is one. Man, this man is... he's really trying to be God, huh? He really is trying. Anyway, Quick Cure and Natural Remedy, these don't really need too much explaining. Those random flinches are so fucking annoying. I know that. These random poisons, burns, all that good stuff, bad stuff, can be really annoying. So those could be good for those little situations. And mostly just kind of like filler for the grid, or at least to fluff things out, kind of give him a little bit of stuff to counter, you know, a few minor gimmicks. And Ground Guard, I don't think there's going to be a major use for this outside of a few legendary arenas. And again, if you're facing like an enemy that you know is using only like ground moves or heavily using ground moves, this could be useful. You know, if they bring Volo's the Arceus Arc battles or whatever they're called, the new fights against the Arc suits, you know, Cynthia, you know, we want to really counter her, sure, I guess, but other than that, Ground Guard, not that crazy. It could be fun though. It could be helpful in some legendary arenas, and that's basically it though. Anyway, yeah, not really a crazy 2 out of 5 pretty much at all. 3 out of 5, he gets Brain Power, full First Aid, 2 Sync Tiles, Shadow Force hit, Special Defense down, First Sync, Sync up 10, Trainer Move, what? Strike Them Down Team Move, whatever. Trainer Move, Team, Physical, and Special Boost 1, First Sync Move, Physical Boost 3, Shadow Ball hit, Special Defense down 6, and First Sync Move, Special Boost 5. Okay. Jesus Christ, man. Okay, Brain Power plus the First Sync boost. This is good. Brain Power combined with this is going to make Volo's First Sync move do a good bit of damage. Let's just say that. He's going to be quite competent damage. Let's keep in mind, Volo is not like a lot of the characters that get released that have bad offenses and kind of rely upon multipliers in their EX zone to carry them. Volo's actually got competent offensive stats, so he's going to be hitting hard kind of just like naturally. And well, the brain power plus sync boost here is going to really help that. Getting another round of it on his sync move means that 2 of his sync moves are actually going to be hitting for good damage, meaning that Volo is going to be extremely good at doing some good AoE damage, given that he's a strike roll character, right? I think one of the biggest issues that you could say is the RNG. You're going to have to deal with that because he does not have Soften Up 1, meaning that he is not guaranteed to be doing any sync crits. Let's keep that in mind. He's not going to be doing guaranteed sync crits, so you could fail some crits, and that could be extremely annoying and extremely aggravating to potentially have to reset over. But anyway, I mean, his overall damage for his sync move is going to be looking quite good with the 2 rounds of this, right? And also brain power, easy multiplier to activate. He is not reliant upon like defense debuffs or special defense debuffs or anything like that to do damage. He's just got brain power and sync boost, and that is extremely easy to activate. By the way, his sync move is physical, so those like special defense debuffs that this character can do here, not going to be that helpful outside of the Shadow Ball damage. So good physical defense debuffs, physical defense debuffs are going to be what Volo's kind of preferring, which he can do here with Shadow Force hit, defense down. And while we're at it, we'll mention Shadow Ball hit, special defense down. He debuffs those stats by 6 every time he uses the move. This is less useful. No, it's more useful on Shadow Force, but it's more limited on Shadow Force because Shadow Force only has 3 uses. And again, he cannot really refresh any of those instances, at least not off of anything I found. It would have been cool if they would have given him like guaranteed MP Rekindle as a lucky skill. That would have made it actually useful, but nope. We got to give him strong start 1, you know. Gotta love that. But anyway, these passes here are quite good for Volo's self-sufficiency and debuffing. I do think these tiles could be helpful if you're running him with Renegade Cynthia. Scroll down far enough. Renegade Cynthia right there. Just going to get rid of the poison. But if you're running him with Summer Gardenia here, I'm just going to do that so the ghost characters stay. If you're running him with Gardenia, then this is going to be extremely helpful. This is not going to be nearly as helpful because she's already got extremely good special defense debuffs, but she has no defense debuffs unless you give her like defense crush or something. So this will be an extremely good thing to have, and this will be very good for increasing Volo's damage basically immediately, because it's not like you're doing -2 or -1 per hit. No, you're doing -6. You are instantly lowering their defenses, kind of like Arc Suit Lance, right? That's going to be extremely good. You just got to kind of time it right. You got to time it appropriately so that, you know, you make the most uses of your 3 attempts on Shadow Force. And of course, you know, the sync countdown that kind of comes with that, which again, Volo's got some decent counters too, given the trainer move and I guess the head start 3, but mostly really the trainer move. Anyway, first sync move, special boost 5 and physical boost 3. This is kind of more to equalize. This one's 5, this one's 3, just because of the power discrepancy between these moves. But I do think regardless, the physical boost 3 is going to be the most valuable to have. I think his Shadow Ball damage is going to be decent. Keep in mind, this is only the first move, by the way. But I think the best thing to be able to make use of these is going to be on the Buddy move, because you're going to be doing guaranteed AoE damage, no sync countdown disruption, and it's going to be, is it guaranteed? No, it's not guaranteed crits, but it doesn't really matter. But it's going to be extremely strong AoE damage, non-split, and these moves up next are going to be extremely effective for it. So this is a good way to get some really good extra burst damage out of this, which again can also stack up with this nicely, you know, if you kind of play around with these, and also this. The extra moves up next he gets here. So Volo's got a ton of ways to get moves up next to increase his damage, despite the fact that Shadow Force is a 2-turn move, and also limited, and the fact that this is also limited, and the fact that Shadow Ball kind of sucks in damage, because he's got a lot of moves up next to be thrown around, which is why this could end up being more helpful if you do think that could be more helpful. And then trainer move team physical boost. This is +1 for the whole team. Again, this could be mostly helpful for Volo himself, I guess. You know, turn that +3 into +4. I think the gain for it, though, is more like diminishing returns. But maybe it could be good for another character. Maybe Renegade Cynthia herself, given she's also a similar build of Shadow Ball and Shadow Force. You know, she can make use of both there. But overall, I don't think it's that worth it to go for, especially over everything else in his grid. And if you are looking to invest in Volo, at least at 3 out of 5, I would go for this. Oh, I didn't even go for this. Full First Aid. Very helpful for this. If you happen to get down to this, or really down to low HP because of this, this is going to be acting as your safety net, and this is also going to be extremely good for Volo's main form of HP recovery when he's getting hit and slapped up with AoE moves and stuff like that, and sync moves and all of that. So he does have the damage reduction to probably live a good amount of moves, but not really the HP recovery outside of this. So this does add some, well, very good HP recovery to him while he's in a pinch in battle. Something that this Cynthia, this Giratina did not really have. She had sync stat reboot. Good job, buddy. Good job. Anyway, so I do like full first aid on him if you can actually afford to end up picking it up. So yeah. How would I build Volo though? I honestly like all these top tiles, except for the quick cures and stuff. This sucks, but like I guess you could pick up that, I suppose, but I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of why are these tiles placed here. I guess you could also just, you know, forego the sync buff, I suppose. I do like a lot of the other tiles he has down here. Like, this could be a really solid trainer move if you can make use of his sync countdown and its moves up next and all of that. Or, you know, if you get debuffed or something and need the extra attack and special attack back. But I also really like this tile, but I don't think he's going to be able to pick it up, given how the energy works with this unit, which is where his extra grid tiles do come into play. Either way, I think increasing his sync damage can be some of your best abilities, and also having the defense debuffs right here, again, really, really good stuff, especially if you're trying to run him alongside Cynthia and use her nuke, where she could also make good use of those defense debuffs because of her sync move being physical. And, well, I guess in that case, you could also try and run this if you could afford to, again, pick it up, because of her sync move requiring having Smarty Pants and requiring special defense debuffs. So, though they're combined, I think they'll be fine on debuffing. They both, Cynthia does some very solid, quite solid rather, not very solid, but quite solid debuffing by herself. But anyway, Volo's sync moves is really, really good to go for because of the fact that it is non-reliant upon any sort of like debuffs on all enemies or something like that, which he would not be too effective at doing. He would be decent, you know, given this, but not crazy, and this would waste his uses of Shadow Forces on sides. So it is good that his sync move is on brain power and sync move up next, so he's just hitting all enemies for basically max damage, just take out debuffs. Yeah, anyway, going over his 4 to 5, he's got Deep Shadow. This is a very good thing to go for. It extends Ghost Zone duration when the zone turns into Ghost Zone while the user is on the field. Increases his moves up next when its attack was successful while in Ghost Zone. Hold on, let me 1 second. Okay, so I actually just went ahead and pulled up Bri's website here. Sync pairs information. Let's pull up really Volo. What is the duration of this? Deep Shadow. Okay, well, can I have a little bit more description to that? There it is. Okay, extension 3. So 30% extension as well as guarantee moves on next. So 30% extension is basically 30 extra seconds of EX Ghost Zone whenever it is first initially set. So add that onto, you know, your field sync or whatever. It basically just gives Volo another amount to help it out and while sustaining. So that is very good. On top of him already having the field sync. And then the one moves up next when attacking in Ghost Zone, that is going to work pretty much the same as this, except this is based on interference and this is based on Ghost Zone. So this is going to be a bit more consistent for having, you know, that damage up. And while that means that Shadow Balls are going to be getting +2 special moves up next per turn, and these are, per turn, this and this will be getting +2 physical moves up next per turn, right? Well, okay, you'll get both, right? But whatever. Point is, you can make most use of it on each because obviously one's special, one's physical, all that junk, right? But that is going to be extremely good for increasing his damage overall. So extra moves up next. He's just getting a ton of it. I mean, not to the same level of like, let's go back and look at this fun character. This guy gets a ton of moves up next, right? I think is it through this? Yeah, Strike moves up next, giving it to him per enemy he hits. Volo's only getting +2 per turn for each, but that's gonna be extremely good for doing a ton of great burst damage with this, and a ton of solid consistent damage, I guess, with Shadow Ball. I still don't think Shadow Ball damage is gonna look uber impressive or whatever, but it's definitely going to look a lot better given the rebuff, the EX zone, the support he's doing here, the moves up next buffs he's getting himself, the debuffs he can do, I guess if you pick this up, but you know, whatever, right? Very, very solid stuff. Very, very solid. And having this ability be here, this gives him the ability to pick up the bottom sync tile. So if you do want to go for a similar grid to, like, again, what I kind of went for earlier, you know, something like this, you can actually pick up that bottom sync tile pretty easily. Granted, you could have already just done that anyway, you know, not a big deal. But if you want to skip out or forego the extra energy, or you want to pick up something else, you know, you probably could. I mean, 4 out of 5 here. And yeah, no, nothing basically. Yeah, sure. You want to go for the train with NPR, which is honestly not that bad to kind of go for. You could try and like pick something up like that. Anyway, yeah, so that's cool. That's cool. Then at 5 out of 5, I think this is a less valuable tile, but I still think it's really good. Adrenaline 3. I like that Adrenaline 3 is an ability that has a 5 out of 5 because it's really good. Sorry, in my opinion, I think Adrenaline 3 is really good for him. It's a -3 sync countdown. That can be extremely strong in a lot of fights and extremely effective. But it's an ability that's not so broken that it's like, okay, you have to 5 out of 5 of. No, I think this guy is definitely plenty good at 4 out of 5. Extremely strong at 4 out of 5, and then this just is a little bit more that makes him really, really good in a lot of situations. I just think it's something that a lot of people I would say probably take for granted, but honestly the biggest ability of it is that you can just pick up the sync tile right there and just, you know, kind of skip around having to play around with this kind of crap. This leaves him with 4 energy left, I guess, which it kind of crappy because you can't really make a lot of use of that 4 energy. I guess, yeah, no, you can't even do that. Yeah, I'm not really the not really the biggest fan of this guy's grid, or sorry, his grid placement more than anything else. But whatever. You kind of have to pick up Natural Remedy if you want to go for brain power. You could pick this up instead, I guess. You know, if you want to go for that special boost 5, I don't think it's that worth it. I really don't. You could forego a sync tile. Could you get this? Ooh, just barely. Yeah. Okay, so you could actually get, if this is something you think is valuable, the physical boost 3 on the first sync move, you could kind of just skip out on the 1 sync tile and kind of grab that. But honestly, given the amount of moves up next buffs he can do because of Deep Shadow combined with this right here, I don't think it's going to be that necessary. Again, also plus Trainer move. I'm giving even more moves up next to himself. I think this could just be like one of the better grids to run for him. And you're running Quick Cure, Natural Remedy, basically not required, but more so just because you want to get brain power in these other tiles. You could also run this, of course, as well, but whatever. It's gonna help for those stages that do those like burns, those flinches, whatever. It's gonna be helpful for those that sleep. Some of those stages that can do sleep in the tower are super annoying. This can help out with that. So yeah, overall, I do like Volo. He's going to be extremely strong in all types of content. He's going to be carrying so much weight for the Ghost Tower. He's extremely good in the Legendary Arenas, given the guaranteed flinch, guaranteed free moves up next, amazing damage he can do to shred through a lot of enemies, on top of the dodge he can do with Shadow Force and the healing he's got because of Haunted Healing in the full first aid right here. He's going to be extremely good in the damage challenge, of course, just being an EX zone setter plus AoE damage plus 2 rounds of sync boosts and all of that, whatever, right? That's going to be extremely good for those. Good for Legendary Arenas with the gimmick checking because of the debuffs he can do. He can set rebuff, he can set a zone, he can do great support for ally damage, you know, and help them through the fight. You know, again, I think Volo is extremely good for all forms of content. Do I think he's on the level of the anniversary headliners? Probably not, but he's definitely not too far below them. He's definitely still a top tier unit to go for, and definitely worthwhile if you do not have him, or if you do not have you're not going to have him, whatever. If you're going to help, which it will, it definitely does. Even if you have the top options, Ghost Tower is still scary. This guy's going to make it so much easier. Anyway, yeah, that's my thoughts on Volo. Let me know what you think about him in the comments below, and I'll see you later. I hope you all enjoyed. Peace.